When one kills, he doesn't simply kill. He consumes. He takes everything from his victims, everything they are and everything they ever will be.
Okay, so Stranger Things 4 Volume 2 takes things to the max with a big ending that sees several characters dying. This includes Dr. Brenner, Eddie, and Max, who dies during the battle with Vecna. Now though she's brought back, Max is left a little worse for wear, and come the conclusion, she's in a non-responsive coma. It's a big ending, and the finale sees Max using herself as bait in order to draw Vecna out so that Steve, Nancy, and Robin can go to his body and burn him whilst he's distracted. This works really well with them getting the drop on him whilst he's fighting Eleven and Max. Unfortunately though, he gets most of the way through his ritualistic murder, and he not only blinds Max, but he also breaks several of her bones, killing her in the process. Eleven reaches out to her mind and she manages to revive her, but it is possible that she should have let her Sadie sink into the void. Using their good memories, she pulls her back from the brink, but she may be harboring something much worse in Vecna. Now throughout this video, we're going to be going through our theories on what's going on with her, how Vecna may be alive, and who his next victim is. If you have your own theories, then make sure you leave them below, and also don't forget to subscribe for videos like this every day. With out of the way, thanks for clicking this. Now let's get into Stranger Things 4.
Max?
Theory time.
Max?
Now the final 50 minutes of Volume 2 has Eleven not only visiting Max in hospital, but she also attempts to reach out to her through the void. We find Max in a non-responsive coma, and thus Elle tries to get through to her on the psychic plane to see if she can pull her back that way. However, her mind is completely devoid of any life or signs that Max is there, and this could be because she's technically brain dead. This is also reflected in what Lucas says too.
Do they know when she'll wake?
No. They say she might not. Her heart stopped for over a minute. She died. I mean, clinically. Then she came back. Doctors don't know how. They say it's a miracle.
Now clinically she died and came back, but her consciousness didn't. Because of this, she's now an empty vessel, and it is possible that Vecna also now exists in her mind, using her as a way to continue living. In the season finale, he ended up falling out of the Creel house on fire, but when Steve and the gang went to check to see if his body was there, he'd got out of it like Nancy did her relationship when sexy Steve smiled at her. God damn. Now though he was destroyed in this physical sense, Will confirms that he's still out there, and we see this reflected in the environment. Not only is the doorway to hell starting to bleed the upside down into Hawkins, but there also exists a black cloud off in the distance that slightly resembles the Mind Flayer. As a child, young Creel used to be fascinated with spiders, and he drew the shape that would go on to terrorize Hawkins. This was clearly how he viewed himself as being, and upon going to the upside down, he said the following.
I saw a means to realize my potential, to transcend my human form, to become the predator I was always born to be.
So it makes sense that if his physical body was to be destroyed, that he'd then take on something that looked more like the Mind Flayer for his final form. However, I don't think that he's this cloud per se, it's more there just as a warning of what's to come. Now I believe that Vecna is licking his wounds and he's hiding out in Max, recovering along with her. The series so far has also hinted at how this is possible at several points. Now firstly, there is of course Will, who in Season 2 was infected with shadow particles, and this created a symbiosis between him and Vecna that he still feels to this day. He didn't fully take over the character, but he was very much a parasite within him, similar to what I believe he's doing with Max. There's also the fact that Max's mind was used as a battleground between him and Eleven. It's a bit confusing as to how it all plays out, but basically Max goes to the Creel house, and then she draws out Vecna, who from his hiding place then psychically enters her mind. Using a little Nina and the boys, Eleven is then able to project herself out there so that the pair can battle it out in Max's brain. Now having access to this due to being one of his victims means that Vecna can technically come and go as he pleases. Throughout the first volume we watched as those he stalked ended up seeing vivid visions of him before he eventually launched his final attack. During the time between this he'd retreat back to his body, but if he no longer had this to go back to, he'd likely have to hide out in Max. I believe that he's actually somewhat feeding off Eleven, though she might be completely unaware of it. In the final few scenes, we see Eleven spinning a Coca-Cola bottle, and in between it, we get flashes of her time at Max's bedside when she reached into her mind. Coca-Cola has been something that's popped up throughout the series, and at several points, this infamous drink has been used to show Eleven's abilities. I think the way that this edit is carried out and the order of the scenes could hint towards what's going on and why Vecna is using her. For example, we get the Coca-Cola scene, a quick cut to Eleven reaching out to Max, Hopper's return, and then the dark cloud coming in. The way the sequence is set up makes it seem like it's all connected, and how Vecna may end up using Eleven as a way to power himself up due to their ties. For example, love is something that definitely empowers Eleven, and having Hopper and Joyce's return could have added the slight boost that Vecna needed to then push the Upside Down out. The chill that Will gets on the back of his neck comes immediately after this, and though I might be reaching, it does seem like these moments are played out like this for a specific reason. Now Max being lost in the void could also come back around, and potentially she may be the key to stopping Vecna as well, bringing her back from the brink and having the pair fight it out in her mind for who gets control over her body would be a big battle, and something that could end up being the way that the series progresses. I can actually see Eleven possibly venturing back into Max's mind, and she'll start to explore the darkness within it until she comes across Vecna, who will have Max as his hostage.
But it's my mind, not his, right? So I should be able to control where I am. I just need to push him away.
The pair might potentially fight it out there, and Eleven could end up winning, which would free Max and allow her to come back. This might then lead Vecna into going off into another one of his potential puppets, aka Will. Will early on was introduced as a character who had massive ties to the Upside Down, and though Max took a lot of focus in the 4th season, when we're talking human characters that Vecna has his sights on, he'd definitely be higher up than her. Because he can still feel Vecna, I think that he'd be another possible vessel that he could end up fleeing into. This is also hinted at if we look at the origins of the name Vecna, which we of course know comes from Dungeons & Dragons. This powerful wizard has several abilities that also include possession, explaining how he could potentially take over the future characters. Now there's also the fact that we know shadow particles exist out in Russia, and he may end up attempting to get access to them. Though Murray busts out the flamethrower to take out some Demogorgon gas, I don't believe that the shadow particles themselves were destroyed, and we lingered on them long enough for me to believe that they'll be brought back in some form or another. Now, it's a long trip for them to fly to Hawkins, so this might have just been used as a way to explain the shadow particles before we learned that Vecna manipulated them in order to attack Hawkins. So this could have just been a way to hint at the final reveal before we got it, but let me know below exactly what you think. Now, I think that the other members of the group could end up becoming Vecna's victims, and that once he's back to full power, he'll find a way to hunt the heroes of Hawkins once more. Who he's after is anyone's guess, but Dustin does fit the profile of one of the people he'd target. Through Max, we discover that those he goes after tend to have faced some form of trauma, and they harbour feelings of guilt that make them easy to manipulate. This could be seen in Dustin, who could end up feeling guilty over the fact that Eddie died to save him. This was of course also mirrored in Max, who felt like she was personally responsible for Billy's passing. Dustin could share this too, as Eddie was getting away, but he turned around to face the bats out of hell, which left him gone when the morning come. F***ing hell. Who writes this garbage? Anyway, you get the point with that, and I definitely feel that out of them, he's probably the one who'll be sought after next. It really makes me wonder if they'll actually kill some of the core cast members next season, as currently, seems like they're playing it slightly safe when it comes to those they murder. Sure, Eddie was a big death, but he and Jason feel like they were created just for this season so that they could be killed off. Now that Brenner is dead, I also hope that Dr. Owens comes back as well to somewhat mentor Eleven and take her to the next level. The 12.
Boo! You suck!
Now he's also a character that we don't really know what happened to, and it's unlikely that the military will still trust him. He did, however, plead with the army to bring Ellen alive, and perhaps after seeing the chopper downed, they'll realise that trying to assassinate her isn't the best way to go about it. Not really connected to the original theory on this video, but I thought I'd just throw it in there so you get a bit of extra bang for your buck on the video. And you bloody did, didn't you? I'm too bloody good to you, but what I'd love to hear are your thoughts on what's going on. I know there's probably a lot of different ways that the series could go, so make sure you comment below and let me know for this one big theory time. We are running a competition right now and giving away 3 copies of Everything Everywhere All at Once on the 15th of July, and all you have to do to be on the chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment below with your thoughts and theories. We pick the comments on the 15th, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. If you want something else to watch, then we've got our ending explained linked on screen right now, so definitely head over there right after this. With that out of the way, thanks for sitting through the video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.